Now in today's video, we're going to be running through my transfer targets ahead of double game week 25 as we look to broach into that top 25k of players. Now before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe as we are trying to hit 12,500 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is only possible with your guys' amazing support. Obviously, we rounded this up in last week's transfer targets or transfer plans video. I wanted to kind of highlight it again. Obviously, this is before the Liverpool-Everton double game week game has taken place. Ideally, the situation needs to be a Liverpool win and probably with as few goal involvements for Salah. Maybe if Trent can make that game as well, that is probably going to be the best outcome for us. So far, we're on 100 points with a -4, taking us to 96, but it is leaving us on a big, juicy green arrow all the way up until 26k. And like I said, if we get that Liverpool win and Trent plays, we're probably still going to be on a pretty decent arrow and potentially could enter the top 25k. Looking at how my team is lining up then, before we obviously make any transfers ahead of double game week 25, we were in a very, very good position until, of course, the FA Cup came along and has absolutely ruined us. It does look like Ezri Konsa is going to be a doubt for the Ipswich game at the weekend, which isn't ideal, as obviously that is the more desirable fixture that everybody wanted for Aston Villa. Obviously, we're going to talk about potential replacements for him and for potentially Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, with him potentially being a doubt. Hopefully, he makes the Everton game, so then I don't have to worry about him and can keep him for the double game week. Thankfully, we got very, very fortunate with the double game week being announced for Liverpool as well. That means the decision to go for Slot over Moyes and now looking at Emery has come out on top really for me, because you're going into that game as Aston Villa or with your Emery. Obviously, you've got the chance of a table bonus against Liverpool. However, they're going in with an injury-stricken kind of squad at the moment. Haven't kept a clean sheet in 6 games. It's starting to feel like this decision that I took to take the -4 to get Slot in is paying more dividends for me personally and over kind of the longevity rather than just this single game week. So I do feel that move has paid dividends. But obviously, if Konsa's injured and Trent's injured, we are in a little bit of a sticky position. Of course, we could just play Aina and Hall. Ideally, I wouldn't want to do that. However, Manchester City are definitely a team that could be attacked and it could be a very, very interesting game, but I probably wouldn't expect anything out of Hall. Aina could do something. Forest still looking pretty decent and pretty nifty at the back as well, and, you know, I benched him this week with his 6-pointer, so definitely something that could still be very, very plausible. But let's kind of go and take a look at some players and talk about the plans that I am potentially thinking. Now, what I wanted to start off with is talking about game week 29. You might be like, Tom, it's just double game week 25. What are you even bothering looking that far ahead for? Well, let me tell you this. I'm planning on not using my free hit in 29. That is not my plan. I think what we might be doing is either dead-ending the team into 29 and then obviously wildcarding in 30 out of it to target the double game weeks in 33, then looking to free hit in 34, then obviously looking to potentially use the bench boost in maybe, you know, 33 or potentially 36 if that gets a double as well. So that's my current chip strategy. So what that will require is quite a lot of thought and process going into that, obviously with game week 29 in mind and obviously with my transfers in mind for this game week, as I currently have 2 Aston Villa, 2 Liverpool, 2 Newcastle, and we have Munoz as well. So there's a lot of players there that we do have to start to shift on before we get to game week 29. Other than that, we're probably looking at half a squad. So we need to build as many transfers into that, or at least with our transfers that we're planning on using, looking to, of course, get those players in ahead of that blank game week for us. Now, I was listening to the Planet FPL podcast as well earlier, and there still is the plausible possibility that Newcastle Crystal Palace fixture does go back into 29. Now, it's obviously been taken out of the FDR ratings and the FPL schedule at the moment. However, they were saying it still potentially could go into that week. So there's the possibility, right? There's still the possibility that they could still have a fixture in 29. Now, it won't be at the weekend, but it still could be part of this game week. I'm hoping that's the case because obviously that frees up 3 players and puts me in even more stronger position heading into this blank game week. So that's the ideal scenario, but it is still something that is TBC right now. Obviously, go and check that podcast out as well. They did like a 2-hour special talking about chips and blanks and double game weeks. It was absolutely fantastic and obviously gave me a lot of insight into what I need to be doing with my team as well. So feel free to go and check that out. But obviously, if I was to bring in a Villa player this week that doubles, the disadvantage is that double game week is against Liverpool, which isn't ideal. Then, of course, it would still leave me in the same position if I was to replace Konza or take out one of my other players that we're potentially looking at with a Villa player. We would then still be in the same situation where we're going to have to deal with them in 29. So we're actually not getting a bonus fixture because I'm not free hitting in 29, which means then that I'm still going to be losing out on that player. I hope that makes sense, and that's kind of the thought process I'm in right now. So bear that in mind when I do show off my transfer targets. So first off, let's talk about the potential Ezri Konza replacements. Obviously, the ideal scenario is he is fit and available, but I'm not holding out for that too much. It did look great when he left the game yesterday. Option number one is going to be Dean Huijsen. Whoever named this guy Dean, by the way, when did he become Dean? I don't think that's been a thing. I don't think that's been talked about enough. But his name is Dean, according to the website. Huijsen, I think, could be a fantastic pickup. Obviously, a great fixture this week. The following week, Wolves at home as well. Really, really strong data probably going into those. Bournemouth as well have been a really good side for XG conceded so far this season. So I'm feeling very confident about that one. Of course, again, the advantage is he does have a fixture in 29. So that gives us another player that plays in that fixture. Decent fixture this week. Of course, no double game week. But if we were to go with the flip side and bring Digne in, yes, it's a double game week this week. However, when we get to 29, we're going to be facing the same problem and we're going to have to use a transfer to get him out. Now, if I use the transfer this time to go and get Huijsen in, we won't be in that predicament. Yes, he won't have a double this week, but at the same time, in 29, he's still got a fixture and still gives me a playing player. So right now, I am leaning more towards Huijsen. Of course, I think Digne could be a fantastic option. I think if that other double game week was a more winnable game or a more chance of a clean sheet, I think I probably would be potentially looking at other Villa players. However, right now with the scenario, if Konza is out, I think I probably would go for Huijsen for me personally. Looking at it as well, we do have another option that has been crossing my mind the past few days. Of course, it is Ollie Watkins. Still doubts around his potential fitness. Of course, didn't feature in the FA Cup game. So we're still waiting to see whether or not he's going to be fit and available. The plan would be to replace Alexander Isak. Again, Isak is blanking in 29, so we would actually gain a game here. However, like I said, there is still that plausible possibility that that Newcastle Palace fixture could go back into 29. So we could even then still lose out on the fixture. Now, I think the main turning point for me here is the next three fixtures for Newcastle, I think, could be tough, right? City, City, Forest, and Liverpool. It's not a great run, and some pretty sturdy defences in there. Watkins, on the other hand, is going up against Ipswich, who are absolutely abysmal. Liverpool don't really see too much out of it. Chelsea have been pretty poor defensively recently, and Palace aren't a very strong team. Neither are Brentford as well in their XG conceded columns. However, we do have to also factor in the fact that Champions League football will be round the corner. Of course, Villa have strengthened a lot within that side as well over the January window, so Watkins could potentially see, you know, even more risks of minutes and stuff like that. So right now, I think the plan will be just to stick with Alexander Isak. However, he is in my mind, but with obviously the defensive injuries that I do have in my side, this one feels a little bit more like a luxury transfer. Let me know what you think of my transfer targets, and let's see how they line up in my side for the upcoming game weeks. So, wasting no time, this is the team for double game week 25. Obviously, as you can see, with Huijsen replacing Ezri Konza. This is in the hope that, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold is fit and available. I think if he wasn't, maybe I'd take the gamble that he potentially sees the Villa game, or potentially just move to Aina, or we could potentially go to Gabriel as well for a -4. However, that probably doesn't feel like the right solution. So hopefully he's fit and available. Of course, the team looking pretty decent if he is, so I don't mind that. Moving into 26, of course, it isn't an ideal fixture for Slot as our assistant manager. The team is pretty decent across the board. Obviously, we'd probably drop Ahmad in there for Rodgers. And then I guess we'd probably still play Trent out of all of those. Probably be a clash between Munoz, Aina and Hall for potentially starting in the defence. But I think with us having Chris Wood, we'll probably play Munoz. So the transfer for this week would be a manager. Now, I think the one I probably would go for save points probably would be Arteta with West Ham. Of course, we don't have any Arsenal players as well. So it does give us a little bit of coverage in that. Then the plan for the next few weeks would, of course, just to be rolling this side. As you can see, we can obviously just leave the team as is. We could probably put Rodgers in ahead of Wood, but at the same time, Chris Wood could still probably do some damage in that fixture. Roll into 28 as well. As you can see, we've got good bench cover. Obviously, a not great fixture for Huijsen, but we could just drop Hall in there. Again, not an ideal fixture for Chris Wood, but again, the reason I'm probably going to be keeping him is, of course, for this blank game week 29. So if this was the scenario, we would be taking free transfers in here. So, of course, we would just drop Aina in like that. Then we'd be left with a situation where we'd need 1, 2, 3 players to build the starting 11. We have free transfers built in the bank. Like I said, that's still that possibility that the Newcastle Palace fixture could fall into there. Now, if that was the case, we could go into this game week with free transfers, of course, and just play like that. We could play a 4 at the back. We'd obviously then still have enough players. So that, for me, like I said, is the ideal situation if that Newcastle Palace fixture does manage to go back in 29. It's not looking likely, though, so we are going to have to go into this blank game week 29 with free transfers in hand and obviously do a little bit of manoeuvring and shifting with our side. So that's the plan for right now. Like I said, if we head back to game week 25, this is how we're probably going to be lining up. Obviously, the ideal situation is that that Konza is going to be fit, and if that is the case, it puts us in a very, very advantageous position. It means we can roll a further transfer as well, so when we did get to blank game week 29, we'd have 4 in hand as well. So I'm looking to do as least activity as I can over the next few weeks. Kind of just hope that the players that I've got in the side can deliver up until that blank game week. Wildcard in 30, a bench boost potentially in 33, and then use that free hit in 34 and play the remainder of the season without any chips. But that's the plan for right now. Of course, things can change very, very quickly in FPL. So if you do want to keep on top of all the blanks and double game weeks coming up, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in double game week 25.